As an acting teacher, I had always longed to find a way to work with senior citizens. I imagined they were filled to the brim with thousands of stories and so many memories, both sweet and sad, that had shaped them and created courageous, deeply wise human beings. I sensed that they would bring a sense of freedom and a willingness to surrender their inhibitions because, as one senior actor said, "What else do I have to lose?" I was given that opportunity about 4 years ago when MAPA approached me with the idea of a Kupuna acting class for seniors. An online Hawaiian dictionary states, "Our kupuna are the source from which we come." The word kupu means to grow and bring forth, and puna refers to a spring of water, symbolizing the source of our existence. In all of my years of teaching actors from age 5 through to adults, I have never experienced a braver, more engaged, more willing to grow and bring forth group of actors than these Kupuna. Whether it was in person in the MAPA building or a class on Zoom, they enter every class with arms and hearts wide open, ready for whatever silliness I put in front of them. Every class was made up of a group of 12 to 20 people, some who had always yearned to act, but doubted that they would have the nerve to follow through. Many had already performed in plays. We were there for the sole purpose of exploration and connection. The enthusiasm was palpable, and it was such a joy to return to our class week after week. When we had to resort to computer screens because of COVID, we discussed how our lives had changed since quarantine. Since we were already working on monologues from plays, we explored the idea of writing stories about life during the pandemic. One of our seniors wanted to write a speech centering on the Black Lives Matter movement, which has been a focus for so many months as we work to bring justice and healing to our country. To you, our Kupuna, I'm so blessed by all of you. It took courage and determination to get to this point. Thank you for sharing your journeys with us. When I think of all of you, I'm reminded of a speech from The Tempest by William Shakespeare. Oh, wonder, how many goodly creatures are there here? How beauteous mankind is. Oh, brave new world that has such people in it. This production is dedicated to Joyce Romero, who passed away this year. Both her life and her works on the stage were always examples of brave acts. We were ever in awe of her immense talents and commitment to our Kupuna class, even during some very challenging times. We miss your courage and your spunky, brilliant presence, dear Joyce. We thank you, our audience, for your time as you listen to our stories, our brave acts. Mahalo.
So, in this one episode of The Twilight Zone, this man in a business suit is carrying a briefcase. He passes a newsstand and he grabs a newspaper and throws a quarter into the newsstand box. When he throws it, it lands perfectly straight up, and it just stays there, right on its edge. It doesn't fall. And then his whole world changes. That quarter was the key that sent him into an altered state of reality. But it was still his own hometown, with the same people, the same places. It was just slightly different until the end of the show, when the quarter finally landed on its side and everything went back to normal. But how long did that take? Who knows? There's no time in the Twilight Zone. I feel like that man today. Now my world is sideways. The COVID-19 epidemic has taken over my world. It's like an alien type of spore from outer space that has infected everybody. You see, I had been quarantined for 6 weeks because of this alien virus. So, Just being able to go out to the grocery store was a really big deal. It was the first time I had been out of the house in 6 weeks. When I got to the grocery store, all the people inside were wearing face masks and rubber gloves. They were all around me. I think we were all freaking out. I started getting nervous. I started seeing things sideways. All of a sudden, I could hear the theme of the music of the Twilight Zone ringing in my ears. Behind that big plastic see-through partition, there was one scary masked cashier. When I saw him, I panicked. I just tossed my dollar and quarter over that plastic see-through partition. The quarter bounced off his chest and landed on the counter. That quarter stood up on its side, just sitting on its edge. I stood there waiting for the quarter to drop, but it didn't. It didn't drop, and things are still not normal. And we are still in the Twilight Zone.
Waking up, pinching myself. Is this a dream or a new dimension I fell into? Waking up and seeing sickness, death, sadness played over and over again on the boob tube. Waking up and thinking, this can't be happening. How? Why? And for how long will this be consuming us? Being isolated and afraid to interact with people. Yes, people. Because maybe they'll infect us. Barriers set up with family, friends, workers, everyone. Some spend endless hours marathon watching every Netflix show available, so their butts now permanently woven into their couch. Some are playing video games for 10 hours straight, not even stopping to eat, drink, or go to the bathroom. COVID. Lots of play, lots of pray came to me every day. 237 days so far. Lots of play, yeah, lots of play. Yes, paddling, swimming, snorkeling every day, and praying. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost meant the most. Finding the positives from this shakeup and the gifts this challenge brought me, my awakening. I looked inside myself and I spent my free time talking to my husband, children, grandchildren, good friends, even if it was on Zoom. And I did all the things I love, like riding my favorite horse, Teddy, walking my dogs, cuddling with them, brushing them, and appreciating all their love and companionship. Riding bikes with my next-door neighbor I never had the time to get to know because I was too busy. Golfing with my friend once a week. Calling friends who are alone to share some love and human contact and a listening ear that they need and miss. Yes, running out of time in a day to fit everything I want to do during COVID. Yes, that's right, crazy. But no, there's never enough time for the good things and experiences in life, even before COVID. Realizing that with prayer and peace in my life, I can live with God along with the simple human needs like food, water, shelter, and my loved ones, and all the consumer conveniences I thought were necessary really don't add to my health, peace, or happiness. Enjoying the things that I love and realizing how fast the time I have really goes by once I'm watching it closely on a daily basis, like during COVID. So I thank God daily for my awakening because COVID is like a devil and an angel sitting on each of our shoulders, influencing us and leading us on different paths. So which one did you take?
Act well your part, for there all honor lies. My passion is hula. Hula came into my life when I watched a hula dancer perform on stage at the EL Theater, and I said to myself, I can do that. My first kumahula was Virgie, and our first public hula performance was for Easter at the Castle Theater in 2004. Some people see Virgie as the president of MAPA. I see Virgie as my first kumuhula and the person who lit my passion for hula. I have been dancing ever since. I have had 3 hula teachers, and we have performed all over the island for many, many years, most notably at the McCoy Theater for every Easter and at the EL Theater every Christmas Eve. Hula is not simply a dance or a show. It is the Hawaiian culture, the Hawaiian language, tradition, Hawaiian history through our hands. Hula is basically a prayer. Many of the hula dances I have learned express love of nature, love of a flower, love of a waterfall, love of a person or a place. This is how it has been for many, many generations who passed down hula as a way of communicating, sharing a story, sharing life events, and sharing a culture. Hula enters my heart, goes into my blood, keeps me alive with inspiration, hope, joy, and peace. One day, I heard there was a new viral visitor coming to the United States, wearing no clothes, no hands, no feet, an invisible stranger, arriving into our country without much notice. Can we stop this new intruder at the border? Like we stopped children fleeing from dangerous countries, wanting safety in the United States? It seems like this new viral invisible intruder has its own unique destiny. Now, this viral invisible stranger stopped all that I loved almost overnight. My life was going one way, and suddenly I now had to remake my life. This was not in my life plan. I began to look at this as a chapter in my life, a chapter I can write, I can direct, and I can star in. I kept hearing, act well your part, for there all honor lies. My hula class of 40 people is now a hula Zoom class of 13 people. Occasionally, a few of us meet outside under the tree. To my utter amazement and joy, we have learned 4 difficult choreography hulas and figured out how to make Zoom work for us. Now I am dancing alone in my home, but we are together. We can see each other. We can talk together. What is this Zoom? Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. Many of the things I've enjoyed in my life, my other life, are now meeting on Zoom. I should be grateful. I should appreciate it. I miss my other life. Most of the hula groups have not been able to meet, to practice, to make plans for their next show. When will there be a next show? I have found a way to navigate through this pandemic, finding ways to be safe, finding ways to accept this new life. Find some joy. I know that this chapter will not last forever. One day it will be gone. I miss my other life, but I have found inner peace in the midst of outer disarray. When people ask me how am I doing, I do not know how to answer. It's difficult to be happy when children's lives are upside down and filled with uncertainty. I no longer look to be happy as my barometer. I look for things to appreciate, to be grateful. I put aside happiness and seek inner peace and bits of joy. I can do this. Never give up, never lose hope. We're in this together. We are a light for the children who watch what we do and what we say. Together, we will get through this chapter, and as this enters the history books, we chart a new course, both individually and collectively. Act well your part, for there all honor lies, is a mantra I have been telling myself for decades, but it's only now do I fully understand what it means.
I was just lost, just plain lost. That's how I felt. Yeah, I know. Lost is not a feeling. At least it's not one of the 30 images that's on a magnet of emotions that's stuck on my refrigerator. But it's still there in my mind. And it's like when I first retired to Maui 6 years ago, up a creek without a paddle, just drifting. I guess that was to be expected. After all, I had just abruptly left a very active and fully engaged life on the mainland. It was filled with a huge adrenaline-pumping activities, like my auto racing. And now here I was, on Maui, and it was all gone. I was wandering aimlessly, without direction, lost, and very depressed. So I reached out and I found direction. I got involved in an activity that had given me forward momentum at an earlier time in my life, a time when I wasn't lost. I rediscovered being involved with horses. It started small. I was volunteering for a therapy riding program for disadvantaged kids. You've probably heard or seen these programs. Very helpful for kids to learn confidence and socializing skills. Well, it started slow for me, and one thing led to another, and before long I was back on horseback, several times a week, taking lessons and looking forward to competition again. Well, my depression was gone, and I was moving forward. Then bang! The virus. Everything shut down. The stable closed, and I was lost again. Stuck in that hole of depression. No forward momentum again. Here we are, several months later, and the virus continues. Conditions are so uncertain. But for me, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The barn has opened with all kinds of protective measures and new protocols, but it's open, and I'm back in the saddle again, moving forward with a direction and a plan, no longer lost, hopeful for the future. And I wish the same for all of you, hopeful and happy. I got to get on my horse. Aloha.
I usually wake up peacefully in the morning, moving slowly and quietly, and often I sit up in bed and I do a meditation, or I lay there and think about all the things I'm really grateful for. I go outside and I take a few deep breaths, and then I step back inside and make some tea. And while I'm sipping the tea, I look around at nature, the early morning sounds, the trees, the birds, the songs of the birds, and just appreciate the day unfolding. However, recently in February, all that has changed. I had just returned from Mexico, just sliding back into the States before the lockdown due to the coronavirus. Instead of a meditative beginning to my day, I began waking up, reaching for the phone, and Googling away instantly. First thing, how many new cases are there? Which countries are also feeling the surge of the virus? How many people have died? I turn on the news and wait for the daily briefing from the White House. The United States has this many new cases and deaths. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Are we being fed inaccurate information? What is the truth? Oh no, more people dying every day. Coffins lining the streets of the large cities around the world. I found myself waking up with anxiety and anxiousness and worry. Every morning, checking my phone, turning on the news right away, watching it reading it before I went to bed at night, and not sleeping very well. What should I do? I mean, surely some people need some help. Can I help anybody? What should I do? But I kept getting the message that the best way to help was to not be around people and to stay home. And some of the good news was that polluted skies around the world were clearing up due to people staying home. So I decided, okay, I'll stay home. So I stayed home and I walked in my neighborhood, which I was really grateful for. And then I began calling friends, FaceTiming with my granddaughter, and checking social media more, reading news articles more, and watching news more. Things seemed to be getting worse, not better. And I was feeling worse, not better. I started feeling strange, unclear, ungrounded, anxious, and agitated. I knew a lot of people were feeling the same way. I needed to get back to feeling better. So I planted a garden, I cooked, and I baked, which I loved doing. I ordered a stationary bike because the gym was closed. And somehow this felt like a good use of time, and it seemed to help me feel more at ease. But then I started noticing other people's behavior. People were finding that they actually needed more sleep after all. People were finding that
they needed to slow down a little. They were forced to do it. And it was actually feeling more normal. Perhaps we're not meant to constantly be going, and doing. But what's up with buying all this toilet paper? There's a pandemic and the first thing people think about are wiping their butt? Should I be buying more toilet paper? Are we really going to not have access to toilet paper for the next 12 months? And what's up with the sourdough? Is all of North America making sourdough? There's reference to it online, on commercials, on late night TV talk shows, on social media. Is it on everybody's bucket list? Have people on the planet been thinking, oh my gosh, if I have the time when I retire, I'm going to make sourdough bread? Not just any bread, not rye bread, not gluten-free bread, not whole wheat bread, not even banana bread, but sourdough bread. I don't know. I don't really get it. There's a global pandemic, and let's see. Make sure you get plenty of toilet paper and make sourdough bread. Check. Should I be thinking this? Should I be wanting to do this? Maybe not.
In 1976, I returned to the U.S. after a 6.5-year absence, arriving at Honolulu International Airport carrying a shipment of $10,000 worth of jewelry and clothing I had designed and created in Asia. I had meticulously listed each item and its value on the customs form. As I presented the list to the agent, 4 uniformed men and women appeared out of the shadows and abruptly took me by the elbows on each side and said with no explanation, "Come with us." I had no choice but to comply. They ushered me into a brightly lit room with 2 metal chairs and a table. The walls were white and bare except for a clock and a large mirrored window on one wall. I was ordered to sit down. As they exited, I heard a click as the door locked behind them. I sat there for 2 hours, becoming increasingly anxious, my mind racing with a million questions, a knot of fear twisting and tightening in the pit of my stomach. Suddenly, the door opened, and the 2 female agents entered. They barraged me with rapid-fire questions about my travels in Asia, my sexual proclivities, what I ate, did I use drugs? Then they ordered me to strip off my clothing. All I could think of were the members of my family ordered to disrobe as they were marched into the gas ovens of Auschwitz. I shook like a leaf. I had an urge to urinate. One agent looked at my arms, searching for track marks. The other agent put on latex gloves, ordered me to bend over, and inserted her fingers into my anus and vagina. Then, just as abruptly, they left the room, ordering me to remain unclothed. My face burned with humiliation as unseen eyes bored through me from the obviously two-way mirror. Another 2 hours passed. No water, no food, no toilet. My fear was replaced with indignation, then anger. I banged on the window and door, demanding to use a toilet. The women agents entered and escorted me to a bathroom and watched as I relieved myself. Finally, after 6 hours, they allowed me to put my clothes on and escorted me to a customs agent, a different one this time, a black man. I don't know why, but I began to sob, explaining to him what had happened to me. He carefully looked over my list and calculated that I owed about $600 import duty. He explained that the previous day, a woman about my age who had traveled to the same area as I had, specifically the Golden Triangle in northern Thailand, where crops of opium were grown, had been apprehended at the airport with a shipment of heroin hidden in her body cavities and rubber balloons. I had been profiled. That black customs agent looked me right in my eyes and said, "Sister, I know just how you feel." He crossed out the $600 due, saying no customs charges. Bless that beautiful black man. He knew just how I felt. Innocent, powerless, terrified, humiliated.
Can I say that I know just how he felt? How any Black man or woman in America feels? How a Black mother feels as she instructs her sons and daughters how to behave in encounters with law enforcement, not knowing if they will survive? How people of color feel as they watch videos of police officers brutally murdering Black men and women? How people of color feel as they suffer shockingly high rates of morbidity and mortality, dying of COVID-19 at nearly 3 times the rate of white Americans. I could go on and on about the systemic racism in our country and the disadvantages in every aspect of life of being a Black person in America. This breaks my heart and should break the heart of every human being in the USA, because Black lives matter.
What's in a name? These are the days of COVID-19. With its absence of human touch, its isolation and aloneness, one day I realized I needed another life in my home. I needed to adopt a new cat. I had put my dear gentle Abigail to sleep on August 24, 2019. Abby was feral when she came to us, so I was going to adopt a rescue cat. On August 29, 2020, 1 year and 5 days after parting with her, I saw a notice on a digital community bulletin board. Nearby humans were seeking a new forever home for their cat Kula, as his human papa had developed an allergy to cats. I responded and met him that day with appropriate COVID protocols of masks and distancing. There, regally curled up on a smooth white comforter, was Kula, 4 years old, 13 pounds of majestic orange tabby. After about an hour's courtship, his human mom of 3+ years and I agreed that Kula and I could be a good match. A week later, on September 5, he came to live in my home. A day later, on September 6, he bit my thumb. My bad, really. I picked him up carefully, but not carefully enough. He twisted, lunged as cats do, and aimed to bite the nearest thing, my left thumb. It was Labor Day weekend, so I cleaned and dressed the wound in accord with the protocols of Google. I saw my doctor the following Tuesday, where I got my 10-year booster shot for tetanus and a 10-day supply of antibiotic. With time, patience, and advice from experienced cat adopters, Kula and I continued to get to know one another. I watched him move about what is now our home and considered his name, Kula, a place name, a good name, and relative to the place he first appeared. I talked with him and told him that I would always honor that name, but that I was used to pets having names. So if he would, please let me know what name he would like to be called by, as Abigail had told me her name some 17 years earlier. I kept getting Gus. From his Humane Society neuter and chip record, given to his very first human family, I learned that Kula's very first name had been L'Orange. It was in recognition of the tiny, orphaned orange tabby kitten he was when he just appeared at an upcountry ranch after the owners returned from a trip to France. His first owner's name was von Tempsky. I recognized the name and looked it up. It originated in Prussia. I learned that the patriarch of the Maui family was a swashbuckling adventurer. He made his way from Prussia via Central America to Australia and then to New Zealand in the mid-1800s. 2 of his sons made their way to Maui in the late 1870s and became valued members of the upcountry ranching community. This patriarch's name? Gustavus Ferdinand von Tempsky. I leave it to you to tell me how an orange tabby cat can convey his preferred name, inspired by a patriarch he never met, across 175 years and thousands of miles of land and sea to a woman in Kihei. I call it the magic of Maui. Gus and I are getting along quite well now. He has a real water fountain and toys and occasional catnip. We have petting moments throughout the day, and I say, bye-bye when I leave, and hi, honey, I'm home when I return. We are definitely in a relationship. In these days of COVID-19, with its absence of touch, its isolation and aloneness, I set out to rescue a cat. Perhaps Gustavus Ferdinand Kula Lorange von Tempsky is rescuing me.